Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. For those of you that are unaware, I try to review everything that gets released. If you're ever curious about a new movie, series, or show, if you want to know if it's any good or not, come to my channel and I will let you know. Today we're going to be talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I just got back from the South African premiere. It was stacked. This has to be one of the biggest movie launch events or anything in that vein. The largest one I've ever attended. It was huge. 9 cinemas, all completely packed to the rim. And I have to say, I think everyone left the cinema with a wide range of emotions. And I've read lots of reviews of people calling this movie emotional, a roller coaster of emotions. And that's because it is. Not just because of the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman, whose legacy weighs heavy in this film. I mean, there is a seriously large amount of respect and pointed towards him. And the way that Ryan Coogler was able to make this film respect his legacy, but also carve a new path, was done for the most part masterfully. This was a great movie. There were a few things I wasn't too happy with, but for the most part, this was almost a phenomenal movie. Right now we're in phase 4 of Marvel. Many people have started just calling it phase ball because this has been a very lackluster phase of the MCU. This movie is one of the few shining lights of this phase. This movie, in fact, reminded me that the MCU can be great. For all intents and purposes, I had actually given up on the MCU, to be 100% honest. I haven't been really excited about it moving. Every time a new movie comes out, I'm like, okay, but almost whatever has kind of been my way of thinking. This movie's kind of a little bit reignited my love for this, for movies and for especially the MCU. So I'm not going to tackle the story too much simply because this was a movie where I deliberately went in without having watched any trailers except for the very first teaser trailer, which is still to this day one of my favorite trailers ever. But honestly, this is a story you're going to want to go in not knowing much about because it is a roller coaster of emotions. But there are so many different plot points that get tackled, and there's so many heavy themes such as legacy, family, nationality is a big one as well, which of course you'd expect, but it's tackled very differently than the first Black Panther film. Responsibility is also a massive theme in this movie. Forgiveness, vengeance. These are themes that are quite mature. And while the MCU has had an issue with balancing its tone lately, especially when it comes to films that deserve to be darker in tone and they're just plagued by comedy, this was a film that when it needed to be serious, was serious. When they wanted to add in some of the comedy, they did, but they never overdid it. I actually found myself laughing out loud in this movie. It's been a long time since I've laughed out loud in an MCU movie, simply because you know the MCU brand of comedy and it's very predictable. While it does share, the similar setups and payoffs and everything like that other MCU humor does have, the actors just give it such a breath of fresh air. That's what this movie feels like in many ways, just a breath of fresh air. Yes, there is this looming shadow over the film, Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing, and the fact that you have this incredibly charismatic actor who was just perfect for the role, just being absent. And the film does its best to fill the void, and while everyone will go home having different opinions on whether they filled the void or not, I can't give you that answer. I can just say that they did a very good job doing the best that they could. And I was very impressed with how they were able to fit this story into a timeline that you couldn't plan for. If I watched Black Panther, the first one, just before watching this movie, and there's so many seeds and there's a lot of foreshadowing in that movie that actually carries over into this one. So that was something I was very impressed with. This movie, despite the massive hurdle it had to overcome, still feels like a direct sequel and continuation to the very first Black Panther movie. I mentioned there were a few things I didn't necessarily enjoy, and while this might be one of the most nitpicky gripes I've ever brought up in a review, there were just several moments in this movie that felt like there were supposed to be these big, massive moments, and then they just felt a little bit flat for me. And I don't think I'm the only one that felt that way. There were these moments where something would build up and you can tell the audience was supposed to have a big audience reaction moment. And I was in a very, very full cinema and there just wasn't that like burst. Yes, there were moments where the crowd reacted in incredibly loud, rambunctious, is rambunctious even the right word? But these loud, crazy ways, amazing, genuine crowd reactions. But there were also moments where you can tell the director that Ryan Coogler really wanted, and also just the movie makers in general, wanted, for example, this moment to be a very, very big moment. And no one in the audience seemed to react that much. So that's probably my biggest gripe, is just they could have, just fine-tuned those moments a little bit, just added in a little bit more finesse, just to gauge the crowd reaction better. But all in all, guys, as I said, this is probably the best movie in Phase 4. I definitely prefer it to Spider-Man No Way Home, which I know lots of people might disagree with. But if you are a fan of just superhero movies in general, and especially if you're a fan of the MCU, then definitely check out this film. But guys, thank you so much for watching this review. If you did enjoy it, please give this video a like. Do not be afraid to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you again in another review.